don't worry if you don't focus. You're allowed not to tonight. You have a free pass not to focus, and then I'll make fun of you when you don't focus. But either way, I'll give you the free pass.
Yo, what's up? It's Chris Sims. It's Chris Sims Unbuttoned. We are here, as always. We are presented by Lowe's Home Improvement. My man, Ahmed Fareed, is here. My work wife, who I gave a free pass to the other night. I told him he could cheat on me and enjoy other things. Right. He cheated on me with the game. Right. Some men might out there like a free pass in other ways, but this was just football related. So don't let your mind go that way. All right.
We wouldn't have, but thank you for taking us there.
Yeah, we had to. Yeah, they would have. I was thinking that. True. So I can't be the only man that was thinking that.
Good point.
Right, there was a player a few years ago in the NBA, and I'm going to blank on his name, who he played for the Nets. I believe he was Eastern European.
Okay.
Right? Pete might be able to look this up. You
remember
this kind of
the story.
You remember?
Yes.
And the wife said that she gives him one free pass a year.
Yes.
And I can remember that taking over my friend group, like text chat for a little while. Like,
right.
Can you imagine having a wife that lets you do this once a year?
I always doubted whether that was true
I
or
know.
not.
I'm not sure either.
Sound.
I'm not sure. Right. I know.
Because then if you get one free pass and you're like, well, I'll do two this
year. She gave me
maybe.
One, so...
Andre Kirilenko.
Thank you very much. Exactly right. So,
Thanks,
yeah,
Pete.
you're right. You're right. And then there's some people in the NFL and players that just take that liberty upon themselves and go, I got 9 free passes, so I'll just do what I want.
I just won't tell anybody. I know, yeah. I would like to hear the details about how that all worked out.
I know, right.
But, yeah, thank you for giving me that free pass.
Yes, you're welcome.
Even though, as you mentioned, you would still make fun of me if I did that and got distracted.
Right.
But, so not a total
The
free
hardest
pass.
thing was checking my reactions as I saw the plays a minute before you.
Yep. And heard the crowd.
And knowing what was going to happen and watching your face going, oh, he hasn't seen this yet, and watching you see it as I've already known has happened. That was actually kind of fun in the moment.
It made it a whole lot easier that the Lions played really well that second half and started to pull away. I don't know. I don't think I could have done it to the same level if that game was close.
Oh, I'm sure. You would have
done
been horrible, actually. Yes, you would have been.
All the Detroit Lions fans that I know and have talked to leading up to that game, we were so nervous about that game. Just all the injuries that have piled up on defense. It's like, man, Justin Jefferson,
Minnesota's
Vikings
been playing
rolling,
hot.
and
Quarterback
like defensively, one of the better teams we're going to face here.
Yep.
We were like mentally preparing ourselves for disaster, and that did not happen.
Yeah,
so
Well,
it's
new territory for you guys.
New territory.
It is
Absolutely.
cool. You could tell even after the game when I was in the elevator with fans and all of that, they were like, this is amazing.
Yes.
And then you Super Bowl and all that type of stuff happens, which I can remember those days just leaving Giants Stadium as a kid when the Giants would be a 1 or a 2 seed. And when you have a good year like that, vibes are high. And I feel like the fan base is having about as much fun as it could possibly have with this football team.
Vibes are high, and nothing could ever ruin this.
Yes.
Well, we'll see about that.
We'll see about that.
So we will see about that because you are providing the answer key today. As we go on in this Pick Six podcast, you will go through the bracket, which will be difficult because there is reseeding in the NFL.
Yes, there is.
So I will have to keep asking you, so who does that mean they play?
I know that's what's hilarious. And I mean, as smart as we are in the world now, I came onto the podcast today and I was like, why isn't playoff bracket like kind of a thing?
Yeah.
Like, why does nobody else like put that? And, producer Matt Casey and Pete Demolay, well, it's just not a clean bracket. And I'm just like, man, are we like evolved enough now that we can go, wait, this team beat this team. So wait, number 1 will play the lowest remaining seed and then we'll put them there. Are we not capable of that? Like we're capable of a lot of great things as humans.
Yeah.
We're also capable of a lot of dumb things. I know that as well. This appears to be one of the dumber things that we can't figure this one out.
I feel like AI could help us figure that out.
Yes.
And speaking of which, AI helped me.
Here it comes, baby.
Give some Requiem for a teams. I piled up. I mean, teams kept getting eliminated. I was gone for so long.
Oh,
I'm just
my
like,
gosh.
we got to bury all these teams.
Yeah.
I don't know if I have enough time to do it. Figured it out. So we're going to bury
That's
a bunch
why
of these
you
teams.
took all those podcasts off. Now we know
get
why.
In the lab.
You were behind and you were like, I got to call. The dog ate my homework.
Exactly.
Right. So you were like family emergency while you were writing Requiems.
It was a family emergency. If I don't get those done, I'm part of my family, and I feel bad about
You're out
that.
of the job and you don't have a family anymore.
That would be an emergency at that point. So we got those coming up later on. We got your reactions to some of the coach and GM firings that have now been made official.
Right.
I feel like we're at the end. At the end of that.
I think we're at the end of that, right? I don't think we have any other.
I mean, it seems like he's probably going to stay. Right?
Yeah, no. I think the only thing I guess we haven't officially heard on, and maybe I'm wrong, but no, I think we're at the end of it. Yeah, because the Saints, I think they're into interviewing coaches.
Right.
So you got Saints, Bears, Pats, Jets, Jaguars, Raiders, right?
Yeah.
I think that's where we're at right now.
The big shock firings are done. We've gotten those.
I think
at this
we're done.
point, we think.
Yep.
All right. And so we got all that. But first, we start with some wild card previews here, just a first glance.
Yeah.
And some of these matchups we've seen before. Some of them a long time ago that might not carry a whole lot of weight, but we're going to look at them anyway. So our weekly segment, the Pick Six, addressing 6 questions, topics that we and the homies have on our minds. So let's just start with a look at the playoff bracket, wild card weekend. Your second favorite of the playoff weekends, right?
My second favorite.
Divisional is your favorite.
Divisional's my favorite. You know, we get a few of the lesser teams usually knocked out of this weekend to where more years than not, you know, the best 8 teams are in divisional weekend. I'm excited for that. But, man, this is we talk about it all year. It's one of our themes, right? Teams we want to see in the playoffs, all of that. I'm not disappointed by anybody this year. Right? I'm a little worried about teams like the Pittsburgh Steelers and all that, but like I said before, I don't think it's a one-and-done year. At least, you know, it might be. I'm not saying it's definite, but they're not that type of team. They're capable of an upset, okay?
Yeah.
I think we got what I look at, minus Joe Burrow, right? Really a playoff bracket on both sides that I'm really pleased with.
Yeah, you would have liked to have
Denver's not a
seen,
bad consolation prize.
For sure, yeah. Oh, that's a good point, too.
Right?
It's like you would have liked to have seen Cincinnati in here, but maybe you take out Houston, but Houston's a division winner, so it's like you can't really do that.
No, you can't do that. So Denver takes their spot, and Sean Payton, playoff experience, Super Bowl experience, not going to be scared of the moment, has history with Sean McDermott's going to know him. That defense is talented, right? That'll be scary. So we got a lot of good matchups to break down here and talk about and have a little fun with.
So let's do it. Let's go through them. Just kind of your initial thoughts on some of these. Some of these games will have rematches. The first one of the playoffs, as you saw there, Chargers, Texans will be playing for the first time. That is our first game. I always think it's kind of a bummer game to play.
Yeah.
Because like one team's like playoffs are done before basically it's started.
Before,
it's like, what? We're already out? We made the playoffs and now we're done?
Right.
So it's Chargers. Jim Harbaugh gets them back in the playoffs. What a story that is. Against the Houston Texans, who are a division winner. We'll be hosting this game. We'll be a underdog because they have been mostly underwhelming. So kind of just like your big picture headline thoughts when this game.
I think the first thing I look at and just go, Houston's offense versus the Chargers defense. How is that going to work, right? And that worries me. I do think it's a game where I don't think that the Houston Texans offense is vast enough and enough variety to be able to win the game on the right arm of C.J. Stroud in their passing game, okay? I just don't think there's enough there. And it's not an indictment on C.J. Stroud at all, right? But that's what scares me.
If they had those receivers.
If they had the receivers. And the other thing, too, though, is you know my other thoughts. The Bobby Slowick offense has not had a lot of answers and variety that I've necessarily loved, right? And then the other part of that is their offensive line and the pass protection problems, right? So if it gets to a game where C.J. Stroud's going to have to throw the ball 40-plus times, I go, no, that's trouble then. I don't envision the game going well for the Texans if they have to throw it 40-plus times and he's going to have to throw for 380 to win the game. Yeah. I think they're a team right now that, in this matchup, especially with the Chargers who like to play pass coverage, they basically call your bluff and go, we don't think you'll stay patient with the run. This is a game where you'd like Joe Mixon to get 100. You'd like C.J. Stroud to be at like 240 or 250 throwing with a touchdown or two. And then I'd go, that's the formula to beat the Chargers in this one. So that's going to be the big thing I look for. And as far as that run game and all of that, I think that's going to be it, and I'm not sold. It's something that I'm going to sit down tonight when I have to officially pick the game, really, and score and all of that I'm going to think about a little bit. But that's my first initial thought, at least part of that part of the matchup.
Chargers did give up some yards on the ground.
Yes,
for as good as their defense was, they were 27th in yards per play given up.
Because they'll play the pass. Like I told you, they're stubborn with it. They will literally go, well, you ran for 5. They'll just go, well, we're still going to play too deep. We don't really trust it, right? And then what they do as the game goes on is they still will play too deep a lot of the times when you're running on them. It's almost like they have a call for their safeties to start fast flowing downhill. Mm-hmm. It's like, hey, I know we're in too deep, but if you see you run, fly down as fast as you can. Where early in the game, they might play it a little cautiously. So we'll see where that goes. But there's something to be had there. And one good thing for the Texans in this matchup is there's not D tackles on the Chargers that I look at as we talked about so much, right? The Texans interior part of their O-line. I don't know if there's a D tackle on the Chargers that I look at to go, he'll the game up against this Houston Texans football team.
They may be able to protect
which
him
is a little bit better. Right, exactly right.
And even if they do that, do they have the receivers without Diggs and without Tank Dell.
Yeah, Tank Dell. That's going to be the issue. That's why I get back into the running game is imperative in this one, because I just think if they have to rely on that all the time, the pass game, that's when, hey, it's still Joey Bosa and Khalil Mack coming off the edge, and you don't want to live dealing with them 40-plus times, like I said, throwing the football.
Yeah.
The other side of the matchup, this is the interesting part. I mean, the Texans defense, we know, it's talented. It's fast. They got guys at the corner position that, okay, they're going to feel comfortable and going, wait, well, we can play these guys man to man, right? We're not scared of Ladd McConkey as far as speed and game breaking guy. He's a good player. Don't get me wrong. I don't think Quentin Johnson yet
doesn't have that speed,
right? And he hasn't gotten to that level of where you go Quentin Johnson issue. Right?
Yeah.
He's more of a size player at this point.
He's pretty fast still.
He's fast, but you know the point I'm trying to make, and I think you're trying to make the same point too. But as I look at that and I go, Derek Stingley, right, Kamari Lassiter, all of them. The Texans are going to feel good about playing some man-to-man. And then why do I say that? Is because the Chargers want to run the ball and they want to chew up clock that way and kind of shorten the game. That's what they do. And then Justin Herbert makes a few throws for the game and they look up and they're like, hey, we're up 21-17 and let's see if we can close this out. That's kind of what they do here. Yeah. But I think it's going to be a tough task because they're going to play the team that's going to go almost like the Chargers are stubborn with their two deep. The Texans are like, we're playing one deep. We're going to have an extra guy in the box almost all the time. And they basically beg you or dare you to throw the football. They go, look, all these guys in the box, throw the ball. And, if you're the Chargers, you don't want to fall into that trap too much as far as depending on your receivers to get open against what I think is a pretty talented secondary in Houston.
Because despite that, Houston was sixth against the pass yards per game. Total defense, they were sixth there as well. And so I didn't realize they were quite that good. They're top five defense.
They're top five defense. They like to, and this is where even though they're going to outnumber you in the box running the football, you have to still run the ball. You can't. They'll play, it looks like we're playing running defense, but just like the opposite I said with the Chargers, where, hey, we're running defense, but they'll have calls where it's get out of there fast, right? We're in there to scare them out of the run, but we're really playing pass defense, right? And that's where you have to stay patient with that. Now here's another advantage, at least for the Chargers in this one. The Chargers, I do think, right, with these two pass rushers, they're going to feel a little more comfortable than most teams with Danielle Hunter and Will Anderson because they go, we got Rashawn Slater, who's all pro-ish, and the big guy from Notre Dame and Joe Alt. So we don't feel like we got to always have a back chip in or a tight end doing that stuff. We're comfortable with that, and that is something that most teams don't feel good about when they play the Texans.
So to go back to the Texans offense, and starting 5-1, that offense for Houston is 23rd in points per game, 30th in yards per game, 29th in pass yards per game, and last in red zone efficiency.
Well, you've heard my stuff as far as the offense doesn't have a ton of answers. There needs to be more route combinations. We talked about this a few, maybe last week, where the rubber doesn't meet the road sometimes too with how they call the game, right? We don't pass protect very well, and our receivers aren't super talented right now, yet we only send 2 or 3 of them out. And we run long developing pass plays. Right. That doesn't make sense, right? We had a pod where I said, I think they got to find their short passing game a little bit more and then have that as part of an element of the 3-step drop because, play action, we're just an okay running team. We're a horrible pass protection team, and we only have one receiver that you're scared of, and we only send 2 or 3 receivers out, and it takes a long time. That doesn't make sense for the problems you talk about with their offense. So that's where I get back again into the run game is really important in this one for them.
So your pick is upcoming here in a little bit, but just on the surface here, it doesn't seem likely that either of these teams really is capable of making a deep run in the playoffs.
I certainly don't feel like that with Houston.
You think the Chargers maybe
the
could
Chargers,
a little bit more?
The Chargers, there's certain matchups where I look at if they have to play the Chiefs again, That game, I think, would be a nail-biter. Yeah. I don't think the Chiefs are just going to steamroll them. We saw the doink game where the Chiefs knocked it off the field goal post and win it the last time they played, just, four weeks ago, maybe? So that's where that matchup might suit them to a degree, but no, in my heart of hearts of what you said, I don't envision either one making a deep run, no.
But it should be a pretty good game.
It should be
kick
a good
it all
game.
off on CBS, 4:30 Eastern on Saturday. And then the late game on Saturday, 8 Eastern on Amazon Prime. We got a divisional rivalry back in the playoffs. The 6 seed, the Steelers, taking on the 3 seed in the Ravens. They've played twice before, obviously.
Yep.
Week 11, Pittsburgh won by a couple, 18-16.
Right.
Week 13, Ravens got the revenge, beating the Steelers 34-17. You were in your notebook for both of those games, and so maybe we start with that right here, guys, because you wrote some, and it's actually quite difficult to read here. So this was a bad week for your handwriting, Week 11.
I must have been in a hurry. I'll read it for you.
Yeah, please.
There is reluctance in playing through the run or accepting what the game is. It's a tough physical run type of game. Stop trying to make it high flying. That was my 2 cents on the Baltimore Ravens offense from the first matchup when they lost to the Pittsburgh Steelers in Pittsburgh. Right, that was the concern with me. Now, in the second matchup, right, because in the first matchup, I believe Derrick Henry fumbled early, and then they were stopped on a 4th and short. And from that point on, it felt like Baltimore got scared to run. Excuse me. The second matchup in Baltimore, that was not the case. They played through the run a lot more, and therefore there was a lot more plays there to be had in the pass game too. They scared the Steelers into some defenses with some of their early game runs, where the Steelers then played, I think, a little too much run defense throughout the rest of the game, and that led to Lamar having some people wide open too. But that game was misleading. Okay, let's leave it at that.
So this is the Week 16 game. It wasn't Week 13, actually. Week 16, so just a couple weeks ago.
Right.
Derrick Henry runs for 162 in that game. They run as a team for 220.
They went run first in this one, as opposed to that Week 11 when they got beat in Pittsburgh and could have won the game, left some opportunities on the field. Yep. But yes, that to me is when Baltimore is the most dangerous, right? I like when they lean on the run game a little bit more. Lamar got under the center a little bit in the game and got Derrick Henry run downhill. And of course, when that starts to happen is what happened in this game. All of a sudden, a guy like Lamar, he's got 15 completions for 207 yards, which is telling you every time he drops back, he's almost getting a first down with every throw he makes. I mean, that's what's happening. And from my notes here, just with that a little bit, right? When it came to the Ravens O and Steelers D, the one thing I bothered me watching it back from the Steelers D perspective is they played too much run defense on pass situations, right? Where it would be maybe 2nd and long or 1st and long. Maybe you got an offsides penalty, whatever. And they'd play a defense like, we don't want them to run for 5 or 6 and get back in a manageable position. So let's try to stop the run. But Baltimore was like, well, let's drop back and pass and try to get most of this back right here. And then it'd be, it's 2nd and 10 or it's 1st and 15 and they're playing run defense and boom, there's 14 yards, 12 yards. Oh, gosh, damn, we're right back on schedule and then some. It's 2nd and 2 or it was a first down. So there was too much of that went on, I thought, right? They played run situations in run defense in those situations too much, and the Ravens got chunk plays. Ravens O-line dominated the Steelers front, okay? That's another thing that bothered me about the Steelers, and they're going to see that, and they're going to be a pissed-off bunch when it comes to this time around. But also within that, okay, and this is where it's hard. We're playing Baltimore here. Their offense is awesome. They got a million answers. If you like I said about Detroit the other night, if you overplay one thing with Baltimore, you're going to get burned somewhere else because Monken's a good play caller and Lamar's smart. They're going to go to something else and go, okay, let's activate, this part of the plan. Boom, right? So where they're not going to be able to handle Baltimore straight up in the run game and be able to stop some of this pass game stuff. And to me, where they got a little too, I think, bland in the game. Where I'm telling you, we're going to play run defense. It's 5 men on the front, on the line, and we're going to do that. Oh, it's defense. And when we wanted to play pass defense, you could kind of see it coming, and you were like, well, they're about to drop back into pass coverage here, right? Mm-hmm. It almost goes back to what we've talked about the Chiefs-Eagles Super Bowl a long time ago, right? not a long time ago, but 2 years ago.
Seems like a long time.
You're going to have to take some tactical chances and disrupt things. You're going to have a few play calls. You're going to go, I'm going to take a chance to try to get them behind the sticks here and do something. And you're going to be nervous doing it because you're going to go, if they call the right play, we might get burned. But I think you got to take those chances, because if you just sit back and go, well, we'll just play run defense and we'll try to fit in every gap. They're too creative in too many ways where one guy pulls, another guy pulls, he fakes to the running back and he comes around the edge and it's like, whoa, there's 2 more gaps over here. One guy ran after Derrick Henry and you don't have enough people here. There's no defense that's ever going to be able to fill all these voids, right? So that's where Spagnuolo was so special in that Eagles-Chiefs Super Bowl. He had those same type of problems. You got to take some tactical risk at times and just go, you know what? We're going to blitz off this edge. We're going to slant our defensive line away from the blitz, and we're going to maybe play a conservative coverage. They might get a 10-yard completion if they call the right pass play and all that, but we're going to hope we just create chaos, and if they call a run, it's going to mess everything up, and we can get Derrick Henry in the backfield. I think there's got to be a little bit of that from them in this next matchup.
Create mistakes and try to take some chances.
A little bit.
Yourself, make yourself vulnerable.
Every now and then. Exactly right. I'm not saying you need to do that, 4 out of 5 plays or 5 out of 10 plays. I'm just saying every now and then you got to sprinkle that in to make them think a little bit. And then we know if this game plays straight up, Baltimore's better. The Steelers are going to have to get that strip sack fumble or a block punt or whatever. That's what they're going to rely on in this one.
Yeah.
And they did that the first time around and got those plays that made it happen. The second time around, no, unfortunately, their offense was the one that turned it over and gave the Ravens extra opportunities.
Well, it's so obvious for the Ravens, right? You run for 162 with Derrick Henry, you're going to have a better chance of winning. And last year in the playoffs, they dominated the Houston Texans on the ground.
Exactly.
And then you go into the next playoff game against the Chiefs, you get away from the run a little bit. I do wonder what the Ravens' mentality will be, because the blueprint's so obvious, but you can't be too obvious in the NFL. You can't let them know what it's like. We're just going to run the ball 50 times a game.
And check your ego at the door is going to be the big thing, because what happens is you see run defense and Todd Monken and Lamar like, we're the Ravens. I'm Lamar. We got Mark Andrews. We got Zay Flowers. We got Rashad Bateman. Like, screw them playing their run defense, right? Screw them. We're going to throw the ball here. But that's what the Chiefs did. And then all of a sudden we look up and we're like, they're throwing it every play.
Yeah.
So they're good enough to run the ball even when people play run defense. And that's the point. And that's what's going to open up way more stuff and unlock their offense. Hopefully they can do that. We'll see.
Steelers' best chance to win this game is by doing what? I mean, obviously taking those chances on defense, creating some turnovers, but maybe offensively.
On the offensive side of the field, the offensive side of the ball, to me, the biggest thing, and when I'm watching back, the middle of the field is open against the Baltimore Ravens. And we've talked about this in the past. This is Russell Wilson's kryptonite. This is his kryptonite, is throwing the ball down the middle of the field. And he's got it in this one. There was a number of plays where I went, hey, he's open, throw it. And then there was a number of plays where I was like, wait, they're about to be open, and why are you leaving the pocket? Like, it's fine. I know they blitzed a guy here, but he's been picked up. You're good. Don't let that scare you by just seeing a little color flash out of the corner of your eye. He missed opportunities there. There's plays to be had there, especially too when you talk about, to me, one of the greatest advantages they have in the football game is Freiermuth versus Roquan Smith in the middle of the field. Roquan Smith is a hell of a linebacker, but pass coverage is not his strength. And you see teams that abused Baltimore during the year, a lot of the times they got ways to single up Roquan Smith in the middle of the field and pass coverage, and that was advantage offense. That will be one big thing with them. They ran the ball okay the first time around. They actually, I would say, won the battle when you talk about run game and doing all that, right? The 2 turnovers were huge. Russell Wilson fumbled on the 3-yard line going into score, and they were going to go up 14-7. And then, of course, the pick 6 was as bad as it gets. And it doesn't get any worse like that. So that was a 14-point swing with the fumble. And then, of course, the interception. That's why that game 34-17 is misleading. It was closer than that. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I'm looking back at this first game here.
There was no Pickens in the last matchup. Right. So that'll change things too.
Yeah, in the first matchup, Pickens had 8 catches for 89 yards.
Yes, second matchup, he had the hamstring issue. So
Freiermuth did not go off in either of the games against the Ravens.
And that's what I'm saying. When I looked at the film,
opportunities there.
He's there. It's there. Right? Let alone there were some other receivers running in cuts and crosses where I'm going to go, come on, Russell, just stay in there and throw it. Right? So we'll see what happens here. I will say, right, of course I'm leaning Ravens here.
Yeah.
But this is the worst. I got to think the worst wild card matchup they could have thought of, Right, it's the Steelers. They're a pain in the ass to them. They know their tricks. They know how to defend them. They know how they think. Right, it's scary. It's about as scary as it can get for an awesome team like the Baltimore Ravens.
That's what we were saying after Week 11. Mike Tomlin knows he's figured out a way to slow down Lamar, and that made Lamar mad. We'll see what Lamar in the playoffs how he's reacting this one. Your pick is upcoming. In this game.
Right.
Our first game on Sunday, the 1:00 game on CBS. You got Josh Allen. Probably going to be the MVP. Well, at some point, we'll talk about your picks because you are now a voting member of the media.
Yes,
with making all these picks.
Officially.
We can't talk about it yet. We got to keep it under lock and key, or you'll never get a vote again, right? You cannot be one of those guys that's out here telling everyone before it's official. But we got the Bills taking on the 7-seed Broncos. That's the early game, CBS. And when we first talked about this game Sunday night, when I was distracted by my Detroit Lions, I thought you might say this is a good matchup for the Bills here. They should be able to roll in this one. You were a little more apprehensive and measured. You think that the Broncos could potentially give them some trouble in this one.
I just think this is when Sean Payton's at his scariest because nobody thinks they're going to win. And he's probably looking at it going, man, this is going to be tough. So it just basically takes the pressure off him. Mm-hmm. And then he starts to go, well, if we're going to beat them, I need to come up with some plays. And you give that crazy some motivation to come up with some more crazy plays and like stay in the facility, longer at night with the guys and go, hey, let's find some plays to screw over Sean McDermott and the Bills defense. He thrives on that. That's one thing I know about Sean Payton. I mean, 100%. So that's scary. And he knows he's playing with house money anyways.
And they really have nothing to lose in this game.
Exactly right. They've won the season no matter what. So that's scary in itself. And we've talked about with Buffalo all year. Buffalo has to worry about their run defense. And I'm not one to sit up here and go, run the ball. I'm never like that, right? But Buffalo's issue is that. When you are going on Sunday Night Football to play the San Francisco 49ers, and you're basically admit that they're probably going to run for 200 yards on you before the game even starts, you have a problem on the defense, okay? That's an issue. I mean, if Christian McCaffrey doesn't get hurt in that game, what's he going to run for? 300 yards in that game? I mean, I don't even know, right? So that's where that is a big part of the game for the Broncos, who are not a great running football team. No. So that's going to be an issue. If they can show a little success with that early, right, and then get McDermott to have to worry about that can unlock some things, let alone that's going to take some pressure off of their rookie quarterback. Right? If they can't run the ball and now all of a sudden it becomes, wait, again, there's a little bit like the last conversation we had. Our rookie quarterback has to throw the ball 35 or 40 times in the cold air up in Buffalo and McDermott's got all his crazy zone coverages working. Yeah, I don't like the aspect of that. I'm not saying they got to sit here and run for 150 yards. I'm just saying they got to run to keep them a little honest with what they do on the defensive side of the ball, and that'll give them a fighter's chance in the matchup.
So we saw with the Bills and the Detroit Lions game, I mean, they can win a shootout with the best offensive team
with anybody
in the NFL. So on the defensive side, we've wanted them to have playmakers on offense for a while, and we think we have them now for the first time around Josh Allen with what they've added. Got a little bit of a run game too, James Cook at times. Defensively, who is the guy that if they need a play or two in the playoffs here, who is that guy for them?
Well, that's going to be
one emerged for
that.
you.
Well, that's right. That's my question about Buffalo for 3 years. Right, is like who's going to be that guy? Now, I mean, Matt Milano, when he's at his best, is their best defender. He is. Now, I don't think he's totally hitting on all cylinders, but I think he's close. So you might see the guy that we saw before the injury and all of that here in the playoffs to be, a guy that could disrupt, strip a ball at a running back's hand in a big moment, a shallow crosser receiver, whatever, right? He's that. Von Miller has started to show up as far as like when I watch him on film, I start to go, oh, he's got his bend back, right? It's not Von Miller from 5 years ago, but it's still a little scary that way. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's definitely another guy I look at, but I think that's, again, where the names kind of stop. Rousseau's a good player. Ed Oliver's a good player, but I don't know if they have game-changing type ability, in my opinion. So that is going to be the million-dollar question for them. And, of course, hey, they're going to play through their offense and Josh Allen more than anything and try to put pressure on you that way.
What do you think the vibe is with the Bills right now? Because we talked about the vibe with the Broncos, just being like carefree probably for the most part. It's, you got nothing to lose. Your first step in hopefully a long run here of playoff appearances. For Buffalo, you're on the opposite end of that. You
Yeah.
know, you've been close. You've been there. Josh Allen, still young, but now we're in the window of we need to win some of these Super Bowl titles if we're going to win one.
Right.
Like, what do you think, like, the vibe and the pressure they're putting on themselves
They're
is?
confidently anxious.
Yeah.
Like, almost, right? Like, they're going to feel good about this. They should. They're going to go, hey, we're better than the Broncos. We got this. But it's also going to be, damn, there's a lot of pressure on us. Damn, everybody thinks we're going to win this game.
Yeah.
Damn. We got to get through probably Baltimore and the Chiefs at some point, right? So there's all that stuff swirling in their brain here, and you just hopefully that they focus on this team and don't look down the road to what might be coming. But they understand the pressure on them. They do, and Josh Allen, I think, is very aware of all the talk around him and everything there. And the pressure will be on their offense. This game is going to be sink or swim for them on the defensive side of the ball, right? I mean, Riley Moss and Surtain, the Broncos are going to feel good about their matchups, even though I like Khalil Shakir and the Bills receivers and all of that. But they're gonna feel good and go, hey, we feel like we can cover these guys. And within that, right, we got some guys that can come off the edge that we feel like if Josh Allen tries to like an extend a play or something like that, like our guys can run them down. I think that's the thing they're going to look at in a lot of ways and feel good about. With Nick Bonito and Jonathan Cooper, right? They got guys that could contain Allen if he breaks contain a little bit, and that's going to be a positive. Now, they play an aggressive defense, and that's also scary as shit against Josh Allen because he makes one guy miss, or, you blitz and they pick it up because he's smart and blitz pick up and their O-line's good to where, oh, shit, now he's patting the ball maybe two more times than Pat Surtain or Riley Moss would like, and it's like, oh, damn, I can't cover these guys with no safety help or anything for 6 seconds, right? And then all of a sudden it's shoo through the snow and the blizzards and whatever else, and you're like, oh, shit, Josh Allen's tearing us apart, right? So, that's going to be the big thing in that one. But I do think it's like one of those, it's either they're going to go off for a bunch of points or they're going to get like shut down and we're going to be like, oh, no, whoa, this is all of a sudden become some defensive struggle here.
Well, it's almost like you just mentioned with the Pittsburgh Steelers, right? And you got to take some chances here and try to make stuff happen because you can play sound defense against Josh Allen and the Bills right now and still get torched.
It doesn't matter.
And still
it doesn't matter. Exactly right. And I don't think you have to worry about Denver. They won't play too much sound defense for too long. If there's an issue, sometimes it's like, whoa, calm down, guys. Yeah. It doesn't always have to be blitz man-to-man or whatever else. As I sit here and talk about the game, and as I was thinking about it last night, I think this can be high scoring, this game. I do. I think with the play callers, the quarterbacks are aggressive. I think both teams look at it and might go, our defenses aren't awesome. We need to push the envelopes with the offense here, or our defense, we don't like the matchup. We'll see. I'm expecting a fun one here.
All right, your pick still to come. Let's go to number 2 here on the pick 6, and this will be our first Requiem for a team. This is the AFC. But as we do this, we also will reflect on how we did with our picks and how the homies did with their picks here. So the Titans, Browns, Jaguars, and Jets is who we're going to be having in this Requiem. None of them made the playoffs here. Only 4% of you had the Titans.
So you added them all in here to one thing?
I put them all together.
Wow.
Well, I had to. It's just like we can't make that many songs. So all 4 of these teams are together. 4% of the homies had the Titans making the playoffs, and so you were wrong. I'm sorry. 25% had the Browns, including myself, making the playoffs.
Yep.
I was wrong.
Yep.
Half, nearly, 47% had the Jaguars making the playoffs, including you and me.
Yes, I did.
And 70% had the Jets making the playoffs.
Oh.
We both had them winning the AFC East. I had them in the Super Bowl losing to my Detroit Lions. A complete embarrassment. I mean, they didn't even have their head coach for more than, 5, 6 weeks?
4 weeks, 5 weeks, yeah.
I mean, that was a disaster.
Yes, it was. That was a disaster of a pick. They were a feast and famine type of team, and they got feasted on instead.
We just really bought into is there a scenario? I mean, Aaron Rodgers playing very well at the end of the year.
Yeah.
If he's playing like that at the beginning of the year, I mean, they still had a lot of dysfunction around him. I don't know. Maybe things are a little different.
Well, yeah. If they don't fire the head coach, who knows what it's going to be? I think period. That's all there is to it.
I think I saw somewhere where their defense was like top 5 at that point, and then it fell off.
It did. 100%. Saleh is a good defensive mind. He's a great motivator that way. Let alone he let Ulbrich be the defensive coach, who he could just coach defense instead of having to be the head coach and do that, right? That's hard. So, they lost another great mind in the building and a great motivator that way.
Pete wants to know, will you ever pick the Jets to win the division or make the playoffs.
It'll be a long
again.
time again. It'll be a while.
You didn't like doing it anyway. You were just like, why am I doing this?
I fell in love with the roster. I really did. I remember saying it. I just go, man, there's so much talent on the roster.
That's the crazy thing about it. They almost were last year with all the dysfunction at quarterback.
Exactly.
Whatever.
Exactly. All right, let's hear this song.
They're dead. All right, so here it is, the world debut of the eulogy to the Browns, Jets, Jaguars, and Titans.
Damn, Barry in 4.
From the worst trade ever to a guy who thinks he's clever, a pick six thrower and a long hair grower, a disaster every way, each and every day. Let's all take a nap and forget it even happened. We thought they had the toys, but were run by teenage boys. The savior of gangrene, obsessed with COVID-19. Titans had some bad days with the captain of mayonnaise. This is not a drill. They killed Jackson DeVille. At least the Browns had this, all thanks to Jameis. Blessed to play in snow in Cleveland, Ohio.
To be in true football weather at Huntington Bank Field.
From the worst trade ever to a guy who thinks he's clever, a pick six thrower and a long hair grower, a disaster every way, each and every day. Let's all take a nap and forget it even happened.
And there it is. The logos. AI did not do well
Jacksonville
with
Jaguars.
Don't worry about that. Yeah, they took liberties with the spelling on some of
they
that.
They can make music and have, they can't find a logo on the internet, apparently.
I think most of that was accurate. Worst trade ever, it's right up there.
Phenomenal. It really was good. It was very catchy.
It's a catchy one.
It's always creative. I like your little quarterback stuff. That was all really good.
Yes. Pete wants to know if I do write the lyrics, so I'm not farming that out to AI quite yet. So I write the lyrics, and then AI helps me craft a catchy
song
tune
or a
for
tune.
It. Yeah.
Oh, it's so good. What was the first one you did? Before you
Drake May and
Drake May.
One team's
Did
got
I
Drake
even tell
May.
you this?
Huh.
I mean, my mom was like, "Wow, Christopher, that song, I can't get over it. It's so catchy." She thought she's like, you need to, whoever wrote that, you need to hire him. That was she thought somebody like made it specifically for us, like a listener or like somebody that's trying to break into the music business.
You go, we hired him.
No, I was like, literally, Mom, like Ahmed just types it into a computer and it makes a song. And she's like, are you serious?
Yeah.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Right. It is unbelievable.
That
I'm
was a
still
good one.
amazed.
We're going to make a hit list. We'll make a playlist, right? And share it on Spotify maybe. I think we could do that.
You definitely could.
Could we do that, Pete, when it's all said and done?
Or we
with
could
all
just
the Requiems?
share it on our podcast,
Share it
right?
on the
Just
podcast,
audio only.
All right, so we got two more of those. We'll save those for the very end of the podcast because we got more work to do. We got more previews coming up here. We've got your take on who was fired and retained in the coach and GM world. We got much more to do. We got to take a break here on the Chris Sims Unbuttoned podcast. America's top high school football prospects face off in the annual All-American Bowl presented by America's Navy. This Saturday, you can watch it live, 1 Eastern on NBC, also streaming on Peacock.
Wow.
I love the All-American Bowl.
I do too. I mean, it's cool. It's always cool to see like the kids who commit or put the hats
I
on
love
there.
that. They
right?
got all the hats in front of them.
I guess it doesn't go on as much anymore because signing day is earlier now.
Yeah,
so I
that
don't,
is true.
You know,
You're
so
right.
I don't
Most
know
of
how
them
many
sign.
guys do that.
Maybe it'll
it's
be
cool
like a
that the
bid.
game went from Army and now to Navy, right? Navy was like, "Hey, the hell with you, Army. We're going to steal some of these kids
Whoever
now.
wins
We
the
want
game
them."
maybe gets the All-American Bowl.
But
we discussed this. You did not play in it. It was around, but it wasn't probably as big because NBC got it in 2004.
Yeah.
Became bigger. Would you have wanted to play in a game like this if it was big?
I think I probably would if it was like this. But yeah, it wasn't like I wasn't on national TV. When I was coming out of high school, right, like all this stuff was kind of just starting. The Elite 11 camp. I said no. I was the #1 quarterback in the country. I said no to the Elite 11 camp because I was just like, Well, what camp out there? No, I'm playing basketball. I'm playing baseball. I don't know. I don't got time for that, right?
Yeah.
And I wasn't worried about all that stuff. Where now it's almost like if you're that guy and you don't go to it, it's like you're going to get frowned upon, and it's just such a part of the process. And it's all just so grown. I mean, it was a big deal in my age just to be like, whoa, there's a recruiting magazine out now. They're ranking high school kids, right? And all that type of stuff, to where now it's, I mean, on national TV, and it's just as big a deal as ever.
I mean, they go through it every year, and they show all the alumni from this game.
Oh, come on.
There have been
It's ballers.
17 All-America Bowl participants who have been Heisman Trophy winners.
That's incredible.
A lot of future stars there, and so
Yeah.
these are the stars of tomorrow.
They are.
Today on NBC.
Wow.
You can cut that and use that as a promo if you want to. Guys, welcome back to the Chris Sims Unbuttoned podcast, presented by our friends at Lowe's. Lowe's knows home improvement. Chris knows the playoffs. He knows who's playing each other. He knows who he's going to pick. We'll get to that a little bit later. But now we get to the NFC version of the wild card previews. And let's start with that Sunday 4:30 game on Fox. It is Packers at Eagles, 7 seed at the 2 seed. This is a rematch of week 1. Not even played in this country. It was an Eagles win by 5 in a back-and-forth game where the field was all torn up. There's probably not a whole lot. I mean, so much has changed since week 1.
Definitely.
That we can take away, especially with the injuries, and now it's Jordan Love. It seems like he's going to play, right? He's going to be fine to go, but they're dinged up, so there's nothing. Is there anything from that week 1 matchup that we can take away?
I don't. You know, like week 1 is procedural. It's like I think the teams themselves, they're going to go back and watch it and just go like, hey, let's go through it real quick. Let's just see if anything jumps out to us. Oh, man, when we played this defense, they got into this play a lot, right? Yep. They'll be aware of that. But the teams have tinkered and changed roster, philosophy, how they approach stuff so much. I mean, that might as well be last year, right, in a lot of ways. So that's like a quick watch real quick. I think that's all that is. Teams are totally different, like you said. I think my first thought, and you know my thoughts, I mean, I think the Eagles are awesome. Yeah. I think they're the most complete team in the NFL, and this is a scary matchup for all the reasons we've talked about, even when we talked Detroit, Green Bay, and all that. Green Bay's got talent. Green Bay is one of the few teams in football that you go, if they play the Lions or they play the Eagles or they play the Chiefs, they're not going to be outclassed in like the physical way, right? It's to me is more about just, yes, the quality of play from the football team. And it just does not feel like it's quite there right now. I mean, we've talked about it so much, whether it's Jordan Love and him not being at his best all year. They've dealt with Romeo Doubs and some issues there on and off the field. You don't have Christian Watson, which is a huge blow to me because he's by far their most explosive big playmaker. Now there's really nobody that scares you on that offense where you go like Chauncey Gardner-Johnson of the Eagles or the safeties aren't going to be like, oh gosh, they might throw a post over the top of our head for 60 yards. And I know Jaden Reed and Romeo Doubs and company are good, but they're just not scary that way, right? So the talent is there, but I just guess what I'm saying is I just don't trust Green Bay right now. I don't, let alone Jordan Love dealing again with another little injury. I know it's not crucial, but yeah, left a sour taste in your mouth with the way they played on Sunday and could have, trying to win that football game, don't do their best, and you're playing an Eagles team that will be ready to go at home with a crazy crowd.
Yeah, you mentioned no Watson, Dobbs you don't know about. Jaden Reed in that week 1 game, he did go off and that he had 4 catches for 138 yards, but he went over 100 yards against the Lions.
And it's been
early
not the
November.
Same, right?
He has not gone over 100. The most he's got in the game is 76 against the Saints, and so he hasn't been the weapon that it's almost as if the Packers are going in at a low point. I don't know. I think they're playing as poorly and as dinged up as they have been perhaps all year.
I think so, and then that's what does scare me. It's a defense that I think like the Packers defense has the horses to be annoying against the Philadelphia Eagles, and the Jalen Hurts aspect as far as where he's at and concussion protocol and how sharp he'll be. Those are things you could question. Is Jair Alexander going to play? Do we know that yet, Pete? Has that been out yet? Because he hasn't been there. He certainly can be a guy that you could go, hey, we can put him on an island against Devontae or A.J. Brown and feel comfortable from that from time to time. That'll give them another So he's on IR. He's done. I missed that. So he's done.
Yeah.
So that's an issue, right? I worry about that aspect. And then I think the biggest thing is I don't expect any of those big plays Green Bay made in the first matchup to be there. Philadelphia has become so comfortable in the Vic Fangio defense, right? They're special on that side of the ball, let alone they have versatility in how they can attack. So certainly favoring the Eagles in the matchup. I'll tell you the official pick there in a few minutes, but it's still dangerous. It's still dangerous because Philadelphia, other than 3 or 4 teams in football, can basically just physically overpower you or outclass you. Yeah. This is one of those teams that can, and if they mess up or have a few mistakes, they could be sitting there really under some deep pressure and going, "Oh shit, we might lose this one late in December, late in the fourth quarter." Sorry.
And I did let it slide when you said it on Sunday because I was just feeling so good about the Lions and what they did. I mean, you do think the Eagles are the best, most complete number 1 team in the power rate. Would they be like fully healthy? Jalen Hurts is your quarterback.
Yeah,
they're your number 1 team.
They'd be my number 1 team in the NFL right now. And again,
I let it slide on Sunday. Won't let it slide right now.
Well, no, it's. I don't sit here. It's not like something I feel so 100% about that I'm like, let me go to the sports book and go to see DraftKings and I'm going to throw down $1,000 on it right now. No, it's close, right? Mm-hmm. I don't feel that warm and cozy to go, oh, they're that much better than the Chiefs or the Lions, right? Or the Bills. But I do feel that, yes, I give them the edge for sure.
All right.
You let it slide?
I will let it slide one more show.
Thanks,
if you say it again,
Commissioner.
I might not be so forgiving. So that's the 7-2. Then you got the late game on Sunday, 8 o'clock. Coverage begins with Football Night in America. You can watch it at 7:30. Only a half hour.
Only a half hour. Well, because
in the postseason.
The other game starts at 4:30, right? Which is, a little later than the 4:25 normal start.
And they'll draw that out a little bit.
Yeah.
Maybe.
So, I mean, for our viewing purposes, it would be great if the Eagles were dominating and people would just turn over the channel and go, okay, that one's over. Let's watch Chris Sims and company on Football Night in America.
In fact, no matter what's happening, even if it's a close game, it's like, all right, we've had our fun. Right. It's time to see what Chris Sims thinks about
that's what I
Commanders
feel. And I'll give you great up to the minute game breaks.
Exactly.
So that's what I'm here for.
You don't even need to watch.
I'm Johnny Game Break.
So our game is the Commanders at the Buccaneers. I like this game a whole lot because I've said from the get-go, and it's probably because I saw the Buccaneers go to Detroit and beat my Lions and look pretty good doing it, and Baker making plays, and then watching them throughout the year. I'm like, that's a legit playoff team. That's not one of these.
They're scary.
NFC South teams like, oh, someone had to make the playoffs. I'm like, this team's obviously got some talent. And then you got the Commanders, who were one of the best, if not the coolest story of the season, go from the number 2 pick
surprises,
to the 6th seed in the playoffs. And so, like, just on the surface, I really like this matchup.
I do too. And just like you talked about, Packers, Green Bay, it's another one. It's week 1 matchup where it doesn't really hold a lot of water. I don't really care. Jaden Daniels told me 2 weeks ago it was the only game he was nervous for. It was the most nervous he was all year. It was that first game in Tampa. He's a different player now, right? Liam Cohn and what the Bucs are doing on offense are totally different too. I think our game's going to be a lot of fun. I think we're going to see points scored in this one. I think both defenses are at a disadvantage in a big way, right? I think, right, like, so here's my first thing is it's Washington's offense, Tampa's defense. You've heard my complaints about Tampa's defense. The overrun defense calls. Too much of it. Too many people at the line of scrimmage always. I mean, I could tell you, if we were you saw me sitting in the viewing room on Sunday, I was going, look at this defense. I guarantee Spencer Rattler's going to throw a little post down the middle here, a slant down the middle here. They're going to hit this here. I was calling it out. They just leave voids too often. And like I said, they overplay run defense. This is a game, if they cannot do that, it certainly would I think, benefit them. They have a good D line. They don't need to overplay the run game. They need to protect their secondary, which has been shitty, and it's banged up. And they're not going to be at total 100% strength there. So I would err on make Washington run the football. See where it goes from there, right? Trust Vita Vea and Kalijah Kancey that they can hold it down a little bit up front and protect your secondary against Terry McLaurin and the rest of the group. That would be my 2 cents. Now, I don't know if Tampa's capable of doing that. I've only seen Todd Bowles change from his thinking in one time, and that was the Super Bowl against the Chiefs and the Tampa Bay Kansas City one. That's the only time he's really changed from that. So can he do that in this one? I don't know.
A little bit of an okie doke against the Lions last year, the game that we were at.
They did.
They a little bit. I feel like
what was the 20-6 football game?
Yeah.
Yeah, you guys won 20-6. That was a game where it was a good football game, certainly. It was close, right? That was the game where, like, Baker could have thrown, like, a 90-something yard touchdown, and the ball got tipped at the line of scrimmage, and you guys intercepted it at the 4-yard line.
Yeah.
No, what they did against you guys, and that was not an okey doke, is they were one of the few teams that were like, no, you're not going to run the ball and will on us, and they were able to slow that down. I'm saying that's not the approach for this one. At least it shouldn't be to start the football game. So we'll see. But if they play the way they usually play, that means the Commanders are going to have pass looks and they're going to make plays in the pass game. The other side of the ball, I feel Washington, of course, is at a disadvantage here. I mean, Tampa's O-line can be dominant. There's a reason Bucky Irvin's led the NFL in rushing for the last 6 or 7 weeks, right? There's a reason we show Baker Mayfield highlights every week, and he's sitting back there going, wait, that guy 40 yards down the field, he's almost open. Let me tap it one more time. Right? I mean, because he's protected like hell. He's got good guards, good tackles. He's got it all. And Washington is not great up front. And Washington usually has to rely on outnumbering those situations, pass game or run game, having to blitz, which is scary against Tampa, not only because they have a good screen game, but, of course, every throw they want to throw is 25 yards down the football field. Marshawn Lattimore being back will be crucial to them. They're a different defense when he was there. He gave A.J. Brown some issues when he played him in that matchup. He will give Mike Evans issues. We know there's a history there. He knows Mike Evans' game. That could be a huge thing to where they could go, hey, you get Mike Evans, and now we can tinker with some other stuff over here with everybody else and worry about the run game. That could be an advantage, but I'm expecting points in this one, Ahmed.
That's interesting. So hearing you talk about it,
Yeah.
I actually kind of thought it was an even matchup, and now I feel a little more confident with the Buccaneers for all the reasons you mentioned here. Now, much like the Denver Broncos, the Commanders are going into this one with nothing to lose because you're
won the
way
year.
ahead of
They won the
way
year.
ahead of schedule.
Right.
And of any quarterback, any rookie quarterback out there that's going to be nonplussed
Exactly.
by a playoff game, it seems like Jaden Daniels.
I agree.
Is that
so
guy.
he is not going to be flustered by this at all. You're exactly right, and that's where he's scary, right? And then that's where you look at it and you go, hey, can the guys on the edge, can they contain Jaden when he runs and does some of that stuff? And, of course, with all these games, Lamar, Josh Allen, Bo Nix, Jaden Daniels, just the ones we've talked about so far, right? They're, I think, all going to run quarterback design runs more than they have throughout the regular season. You're going to see that be more of an element now. It's win or go home. Hey, it, we got to do what we got to do to win this one. So, Jaden, yeah, you might have to run it here, even though we wouldn't do this to you in week 14, right?
Yeah.
So that aspect changes things in these games in a lot of ways because usually teams with these type of running quarterbacks have a few wrinkles that you haven't seen, and they break them out in these playoff football games.
I can't wait to watch it, and
Yeah.
we will be watching it with the homies. The second half, we'll be sitting right at this desk on Sunday night, trying to keep one eye on the game and update you guys on a game that you already know the outcome to, but we will be there for you to do that Sunday night. Commanders, Buccaneers, NBC, and Peacock. One more game to talk about. It's the ESPN game on Monday night. It is the 5 seed in the Vikings, actually going to be the favorite, the 14-win Vikings at SoFi Stadium, taking on the Rams, who are resting a lot of their guys, trying to stay healthy for this one. They did play once before, Thursday night. Rams got the win against the Vikings by 10. Maybe it wouldn't have been that way if they would have called the face mask in the end zone.
That's right.
But as you look at this one, I mean, the Vikings go in. Like I mentioned at the top there,
Yeah.
I was so nervous that the Vikings, and Mike Florio was so confident in the Vikings there. It was crazy how this all worked out like this. But now, such a letdown, right?
Yeah,
You go from Vikings potentially being home, resting, being at home, the whole playoffs, to now immediately going on the road. You wonder how they handle that the disappointment of the final game of the regular season.
It's disappointment. I will lean on what I heard Kevin O'Connell say the day after the football game. We can't forget that the 9 weeks before this, we were really awesome and played really well.
Yeah.
He's going to be able to sell to his team when they watch back the film from Sunday night against the Lions and go, look at all the opportunities we had. Look, right? Sam missed this throw. Sam missed this throw, right? We missed this field goal. Damn, Sam didn't even throw this, and this guy's wide open, right? Going through that film yesterday, Sam definitely was jittery and not on his game. Whether it was just the actual physical throwing of the football or a little bit of like what we saw when the Vikings and Rams played the first time around. Sticking out on receiver too long or getting it off it too quick. The other night he had a little bit of the too quick stuff. It was like, oh, he's not open, and he moved on. And it was like, no, Sam, he was there. You had the touchdown. You might have saw a few plays on social media. There was a few plays on social media that the people I follow, they pointed it out, and I was like, yeah, good job by you. That's exactly right. It's exactly what I saw, right? He had plays where it's like the plays for this guy, and he just – because the Lions were blitzing, the crowd noise and all of that, he just got off it. He didn't let it develop enough. And like we always talk about, when you get off number 1 too quick, number 2's not even where he's supposed to be yet because you're there too quickly, and he doesn't look open either. And that led to, oh, I'm dancing around and I don't know where to throw the football. And it's like, yeah, because you just messed up the whole rhythm of the play. Mm-hmm. So hopefully he can calm down. The first time they played, we broke it down, if you remember, and it was a little bit of like Sam Darnold was in the process then of just staying on Justin Jefferson too long. And it wasn't long after this where we started to see Jordan Addison and Hawkinson and everybody start to become more of a part of the offense because I'm sure they were like, hey, I know we called the play for Justin Jefferson, but we got to get off it at some point. So hopefully he can get back to his happy medium here, certainly.
If there's anything that can calm down a quarterback, it's playing a do-or-die playoff game on the road in an unfriendly environment.
Well, the good thing is it won't be that unfriendly with the Rams. It's never that unfriendly there.
It's like a high school crowd.
Exactly right. They might have half Vikings fans there. The other thing, too, that he's going to feel good about is, hey, this is his team can protect well. This is a defense that likes to play zone. And he's going to have windows, and I would say Kevin O'Connell is about as good as there is as far as finding windows and opening up windows in zone defenses. So that's what I look for there in that matchup. And I almost feel the same way about the Rams on the other side, right? The Rams, the big thing in the first time around, it wasn't a ton of big explosive plays. It was a lot of 5-yard throw, 10-yard throw, 4-yard run, 5-yard throw, 4-yard run again. Boom, 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 that way, right? I think it's hard to play that way, against this Vikings football team. And I feel like if they don't make a few more big plays in this one, I just think you're asking for tip, pass, interception, right? Mm-hmm. That's what Minnesota's done all year. That's why they've been what? Are they the top turnover defense in football? Or they're right up there with them because they don't let up a lot of big plays. They make you think a little bit with all the crap they do. And they got some good damn players and a pretty good pass rush to where they feel like, hey, you go on a 10-play, 12-play drive, one of our guys in our defensive scheme is going to create some confusion, some chaos, and we're going to get the ball, right? And that's what they're going to rely on here. So the Rams, the offense has scared me, and we'll see where that goes. But, there's no glaring thing I look at here to go, ooh, they have to change this time around, right? I think the Rams' defense is better than what it was the first time around. Mm-hmm. I think the Vikings' defense is better, and I think the Vikings' offense is better, and this one is a coin flip type of football game, in my opinion.
Yeah, the last time we saw the Rams first stringers together was that Cardinals game, Week 17, right? And we mentioned it there. I mean, Kyron Williams had a tough go of it, getting something going on the ground, and it was Puka Nacua or nothing, basically. I mean, Cooper Kupp had
kind of what it's become.
Targets, just one catch.
That's what scares me a little bit about them. We haven't seen them play good on the offensive side of the ball since the Buffalo game, if you remember right? And what was that, early December?
Sure.
Cooper, the other guy, Cooper Kupp, certainly got to show up and be, the Robin to Puka Nacua's Batman. And then somebody else. Right? When they were at their best during the year, Tutu Atwell was showing up once or twice a game with a big play. They need that type of something. They need somebody, whether it's him or Demarcus Robinson is that third element in the pass game, just to take some pressure off of Puka, because everybody knows every play is designed for Puka in Los Angeles right now.
Buffalo was Week 14. That was December 8th. So it's been quite a while. That was the game where Cooper Kupp had 92 yards.
Okay.
Cooper's only gone over 100 3 times this year.
Yeah.
So
yes.
They'll need him in the playoffs.
Yes, they will.
Who will throw the ball the most? Who will have the most passing yards? Well, DraftKings thinks they know. They got the most passing yards by a wild card quarterback this weekend. Here are the current odds. And your favorite right now, plus 450, is Sam Darnold to have a bounce-back game against those Rams we were just talking about.
I'm not surprised. Look at the top 4 guys on the list altogether. They're all teams where we just kind of talked about, and I think like Sam Darnold and Stafford, to the point we're talking about, when you just look at that, you go, Yeah, the Vikings and the Rams play zone defenses, and those quarterbacks with those coaches can cut through those zone defenses usually. So I understand them being there. I think the guy I would bet on, though, is still Baker Mayfield. I think that's the guy I would take. I look at that, and I just think, again, Washington's in a bind, and I think with Dan Quinn, he'll opt on, we're not going to let him run the ball. I'm not going to let him start getting going in that direction. I'm going to make Baker Mayfield hit Mike Evans with Marshawn Lattimore on him and see if this Jalen McMillan and Cade Otton can really come through. I know it's scary either way.
Yeah, we're going to stop Bucky Irving, and then it's like, wait, he's a pretty good pass catcher
exactly,
too, out of the backfield.
Exactly right. So that's where I go Baker. I'm going to go Baker as the guy I favor in this one. I think the other one that's sneaky to me is Josh Allen. Yeah. Because I just think I think it could be a shootout. It could be a shootout, and I think Denver can be a little cocky and go, hey, screw you. We'll get up in your face and play man-to-man, and we're going to blitz, and we're not going to let Josh Allen make all these magical plays, which could mean negative plays for Buffalo, but it could be 80-yard bombs for Josh Allen, too.
DraftKings Sportsbook, the #1 place to bet touchdowns. New customers can bet $5, get $200 in bonus bets instantly.
Download the app. Use promo code UNBUTTONED when you sign up. DraftKings Sportsbook. The crown is yours.
That's so much easier when we're sitting next to each other.
Then Zoom.
Not separated by thousands of miles and hundreds of miles and delayed internet connection. All right, so we got to take one more break. When we come back, you're going to give out the answer key.
It's all done.
You're doing your brackets. You've already done it.
You know the NFL's fixed, so I know the people, and they told me, so I got it all for you
You'll have quick comments on coach and GM changes here, and then the final 2 requiems to dance to play us out, as they say, coming up on the podcast next. Welcome back to the Chris Sims Unbuttoned podcast, presented by our friends at Lowe's. Lowe's knows home improvement. Time for number 4 in the Pick 6, and that is where the picks are made. AFC, NFC, all the way through the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
We're getting the answer key right now.
Yes, we are. Don't pay attention to the one I gave you in early September, right?
We'll get to that.
There's a new one now. All right, so how do you want to break this down? What do you want to do here?
You want to do AFC first?
Yeah, let's just do AFC first, and I'll rattle them off.
So we actually have what you thought. Do we want to show that, Peter? Or is it too embarrassing for us to show this? We'll show the.
I don't give a damn. Listen, again, this is what we
September,
thought,
or you thought. I don't want to pile on here.
That's okay.
I'm not associated with this.
No,
the Bengals, man. If they would have made it, I'm telling you, they were finally playing.
Well, my preseason pick was Burrow MVP, which he played like an MVP, but I just did not the Bengals defense. I underestimated their issues they have on that side of the ball, certainly. But yeah, it's not looking. It's one of my lower. I feel like it's one of my lesser years as far as predicting playoffs in the Super Bowl. I've been pretty good the last few years. Not that I picked the winners the right way, but I've picked like the Super Bowl contestants pretty damn good over the last 5 or 6 years. Here's the NFC version.
Falcons close.
It's better, but it's not great.
Bears, no. 49ers, I mean, you weren't alone in that.
Nope. And I had the Bears as my long shot there. Falcons close, but I had Green Bay, Detroit, and I had Green Bay upsetting your Detroit Lions.
Which a couple weeks ago it looked like Green Bay, Detroit's
they could
a
be
pretty
one of
safe,
those teams.
Yeah.
But that ain't gonna happen. So at least my final 4 in the NFC is still available. But yeah. Tough year for me right there.
So playoff teams, I ended up with 8 playoff teams to your 7. So I think it's the first time ever I've beaten you in that category. Yep. Division winners, we were 4-4. We both had 4 there, which is not great. The AFC Championship game we mentioned before, I had the Jets over the Chiefs.
Right.
It's not going to happen. You had the Bengals over the Chiefs.
Yep.
It's not going to happen. NFC, still alive here. I had the Lions over the Packers.
Right.
You had the Packers over the Lions.
Right.
So that's why you had a bad year, is you picked against my Detroit Lions. Super Bowl, I had the Lions over the Jets. That's not going to happen, although the Lions could still win here.
Yeah.
And you had the Bengals over the Packers.
Which is not going to happen.
We got some homie shout-outs here first before we get to your picks.
Yeah.
Mal Gills predicted 12 of the 14 playoff teams.
Way to go,
Just had the Colts and 49ers in. Instead of Denver and Washington. Brady Gray predicted 7 division winners.
Gills and Gray.
Yeah. The 8th, Green Bay, was a wild card there, so good job. And just to show you how many people are like super smart in our bracket here, 95 homies, 14% could have a perfect Final Four.
Wow.
So well done to
Way
those
to go.
95 homies, and we'll keep track.
Hey, man,
We'll
we're
do some
educating the homies. The homies know. Way to go, homies. I like that. Maul Gills and Brady Gray, way to go.
We'll do some shout-outs to you guys there as well. But
way to kick the shit out of me and my own thing.
well, we have a second
You're not
chance.
allowed to do that to me.
Yeah.
How dare you?
You are now barred from downloading and listening to the podcast.
You're not allowed to listen to me anymore. You're
Congratulations,
acting
though.
like you're smarter than me. How dare you?
All right, so we get a second chance. It's a redo.
Yeah.
This is a redo. Now we know who's in
I
it.
like this. I don't understand why this is not a thing. I don't. I think we're smart enough as a society to figure this out. I think I'm trying to make this a thing. I think we should spearhead this, okay?
Okay.
Playoff brackets, like fill them out.
All right.
Send them in. Let's go.
So you're going to do it here. Pete, I'm not going to do it yet because I still can't figure out how the reseeding, and it would take too long, and I'd be messing up. It'd be
Why do you
embarrassing.
ask your chat AI chat BGP?
I will do that, and I'll come back on Thursday with my picks here. So Chris, we'll start in the AFC here.
Okay.
Let's start in the AFC. You got the 3 games, the wild card games.
Yep.
Let's go through them.
All right, Bills Broncos.
Okay.
I'm going to take the Bills at home.
Okay.
Right. I don't have scores here. If you want to hear my scores, tune in tomorrow
Pick
to me
spot.
and Florio pick
That's
spot. All
good
right.
job.
So, but I'm going to go Bills over the Broncos in that 2-7 matchup.
Okay.
3-6 Ravens Steelers. I'm going to take the Ravens. Right. But it's scary. Like did a little light twinkle in my brain to go, could this be one of those upsets? Yes, we talked about it earlier. The Steelers have the formula for that, but I'm still going with the Ravens, who I think are playing their best football.
Yeah, you
all
should
year.
get the light twinkling in your brain checked out, though. I don't think that is
That's not a
normal.
good thing.
Yeah, that might mean something else.
Damn, I've been dealing with that my whole life. I didn't realize it. And then Texans Chargers. I am going with the Chargers. I have no faith in the Texans football team.
yeah.
I'm going to go with the Chargers on the road to win that football game. It just feels like the Texans are done, and so that's my AFC wild card, which now will lead to
This
the
is where it gets
Chiefs playing the
difficult.
Chargers.
Yes.
because the Chargers are 5 and they're the lowest one remaining.
This is the matchup
Right?
you said watch out for.
A little bit watch out for. Yeah. And then again, when you haven't played in 24 days and one team's going, hey, we're playing pretty good football and we just came off a road win in the playoffs, they're going to be feeling good, right? I think this is like a squeaker. The Chiefs win by a squeaker. That's what I'm going to take them
As
by.
they've done most of the year.
Exactly right. And both times against the Chargers were kind of that way. Bills-Ravens. Bills at home against the Baltimore Ravens. I think, honestly, the Ravens are probably the worst matchup in all of football for the Buffalo Bills. I'm going to take the Baltimore Ravens to win that game on the road.
Okay.
I am. It was a tough one to think there. Certainly was, but we're going back to the rematch.
So we get a rematch
Yep.
of last year, this time at a different location, though, in Kansas City.
Yep.
Got the 1-seed Chiefs, 3-seed Ravens. Winner goes to the Super Bowl. Do the Ravens make the same mistake and throw the ball all over the field, or do they run it down the Chiefs' throats?
I'm going to take the Ravens to win the game on the road in Kansas City. I am. I just, like I've said, the break from the Chiefs, the way they've played all year, I feel like the Ravens are playing their best football right now. The Chiefs will be motivated to get number 3. I think the Ravens will have a little more motivation just to get there, the Super Bowl itself. Let alone there's the motivation of like, I don't want to see my best buddy win 3 in a row, right? All of that, right? It's always the team that's kind of been like your kryptonite, or the team that you got to deal with, the most, that kind of knocks you off that perch, right? The Cowboys were going for 3 in a row. Who was it that knocked them off? Their arch nemesis, the San Francisco 49ers, right? The 49ers were going for 3 in a row. Who knocked them off in the 80s? Their arch nemesis, the New York Football Giants. So it just feels that way. I'm going to go with the Ravens to get the Super Bowl in the AFC.
All right, so we'll get to the Super Bowl here in a second, but we got to sort out the NFC now.
Yep.
You got the 3 wild card games. Where are you going in those?
I'm going to go 2-7 matchup Eagles-Packers. I'm going Eagles,
Yep.
right? It's scary because I think the Packers are a talented football team, yes, but I'm still going the Eagles. Bucks-Commanders in the 3-6 matchup. I'm going the Bucks. I'm going to go the Bucks to win that one in a high-scoring football game. And I'm going to take the Vikings on the road to get payback against the Rams and avenge that loss in Week 11, which is crazy because what's funny about that is just that the last time the Vikings lost 2 in a row, it was Lions and Rams, and it could set up to be that once again, right?
Right.
So we'll see. Hopefully recent trends don't carry over in this one.
So you are making Dan Campbell not a liar, because he said to Kevin O'Connell at the end of that game on Sunday night, we'll see you in 2 weeks. And so here we go. In the divisional game, we got the Lions hosting the Vikings again.
Yes, and that's scary, right? The 1-5 matchup. I'm going to still take the Lions. I'm going to take them.
Okay.
I just have too much belief in the Lions and just the get it done factor a little bit, let alone like an extra week to prepare and do all that and maybe tinker and look at things like, oh, Flores did this to us and Flores. Because let's not forget, Minnesota played pretty good defense for like 3 quarters in that football game. Like Detroit was not Detroit until about late third quarter, fourth quarter, and all of a sudden it started to explode.
And it really wasn't Detroit. It was Jahmyr Gibbs.
It was Jahmyr Gibbs.
It was
exactly
Jahmyr
right.
Gibbs
exactly
show.
right. So I like the Lions there. The other matchup would be the Eagles hosting the Bucs, and I am going to take the Eagles, of course, which will set up the Lions at home against the Eagles.
Makes me nervous. You like the Eagles better, but this game is in Detroit.
It's in Detroit. It's
Lions
very
got a little
scary.
magic this
No doubt
year.
about it. They do have magic there. I'm still taking the Eagles.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
no.
I'm sorry. Yeah, and we're going to go to the Ravens-Eagles Super Bowl.
Wow.
Ravens-Eagles Super Bowl. Right, and we had that matchup just a few weeks ago where it was, I believe, 24-12.
What week was that?
That? It was week 15, maybe, so roughly somewhere in that mode right there, which was a really good football game. It was 17-12, and then a late touchdown by the Eagles put them up 24-12, I believe.
Maybe week 14, maybe.
Yeah, it might be 24-19. Excuse me.
Week 13.
Oh, sorry. Yep, and it was a late drive by the Ravens to give them 19. Right, that's why I was thinking 24-12. So, so Ravens-Eagles Super Bowl matchup, which is going to be awesome. I mean, these are two teams that, big bullies, right, always think they're the toughest team on the football field. A lot like your Lions football team is. Same way. So I certainly wouldn't be disappointed about Lions-Ravens either. I hope you don't, personally quit the show now because I've done this. I'm going to take the Eagles to win the Super Bowl, though. I know. That's crazy. As a Giants fan, I'm going to take them. I think this is the year they get over the hump as compared to 2 years ago against the Chiefs, and they get it done and beat the Ravens in the Super Bowl.
Do you think this will finally get Eagles fans off your back, or no? Probably not.
Probably not. I mean, it's funny. I have a love-hate relationship with Eagles fans.
Because you've complimented their team for
I feel like
years now.
I feel like for about the last year, I feel like I've gotten a lot more positive stuff. I feel like most Eagles fans have come to my at least somewhat to go, okay, he's not totally wrong about Jalen Hurts. He's been trying to say Jalen Hurts is real good, but he's not top 2 or 3 in football or the best quarterback in football like they were trying to tell me.
Yeah.
So I've been getting that. I think I told you a story during the season at one point. I had a guy come up to my dinner table on a Friday night with me and the wife on date night, and he's like, I listened to your pod. He's like, I'm a huge Eagles fan. I didn't like you forever. And then I listened to your pod, and I was like, oh, man, he kind of knows what he's talking about. Oh, he's making some good points. And he's like, now I listen to you all the time. He's like, I still don't like some of the things you say about Hurts, but I like how you talk about our football team. So hopefully I've taken some of the reasonable ones over to our side here.
Well, it's probably one of those things where you've called him kind of like a super team for a while now, super roster, and you're almost like setting them up, right? So if they don't win the Super Bowl, they're like, oh,
think it's like I'm more.
You blew it again.
I know. I'm more like waxing poetically about how impressed I am about your team and what your GM has done and all of that. So we'll see where it goes. But yeah, as we sit here, playoff bracket done, Eagles Super Bowl champions.
All right, well, congratulations. I hope you're wrong on that whole thing. We'll see how it plays out. Speaking of coaches and GMs, we've had some changes here. So briefly, and you've talked about this with Florio, and so the real in-depth kind of back and forth discussion you can go on our YouTube channel.
65 minutes today, basically.
Right, exactly. But just some brief headlines here and your gut reaction and initial thoughts on the Jaguars firing Doug Peterson, retaining the GM in Trent Baalke, which seems to be kind of a trend here.
It does seem to be a trend. Odd, too, because I feel like most coaches will tell you this is not the formula they want to succeed, whether it's coaches that are already successful as coaches or the ones that are like trying to be head coaches. None of them quite want that. Have you ever talked to anybody in the business? I'm not surprised Doug Peterson got fired. The Trent Baalke thing is weird, okay? One, do I think it's going to hinder maybe some guys and they're wanting to go there, the ones that have options? Yes, I do. Because I think some are going to go, I don't want to go with the guy that seems to have the owner's ear and like he runs the show, and yet there's been 2 failed coaches under his watch already, and if it just doesn't go good right away, everybody's going to be like, what is Jacksonville doing? Why do they listen to Trent Baalke? Trent Baalke hired this idiot, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it doesn't set up for success always. But the other part about Baalke is, and this is undeniable, is the Jaguars are talented as hell. The Jaguars are talented. Anybody I talked to this year that played the Jaguars, they were always like, man, they should be better than what their record is, right? I mean, their only issue really on their football team to fix is offensive line. Offensive line is the only glaring area where you just look at and go, wow, yeah, that could be better. And they can maybe use a D tackle, okay, or something like that. But that's going to be the pluses and negatives of Jacksonville job.
Yeah. I'm part of you, if you're a head coach, you're like, well, if I go in there and if it's bad, they're not going to fire me. Maybe they'll fire the GM this time, and I'll get to stick around.
Yeah, maybe.
But
right.
maybe more likely they just clean house again and they fire both
Doug
of you.
Peterson
So.
probably thought that. Right.
Yeah, right. That's true. Good point.
right.
The Raiders, it was interim last year. Antonio Pierce, they gave him the main gig, and they gave him 1 year. Fired after 1 year.
I don't feel like it's totally fair. I do want to say that. I mean, again, what did we think the Raiders were going to be this year? It's one of the poorer rosters in the sport. They have no quarterback. Antonio Pierce didn't mess up the quarterback situation. The Raiders front office did. And not reading the draft the right way. So he had no quarterback. He inherited a Devontae Adams situation that was messed up. And then after that, there's no marquee offensive football player in their team. They got Brock Bowers. That's it. He was a rookie who had an awesome year, right? The one thing I'll say about Antonio Pierce, too, is the team played tough throughout. I mean, they really did. And more times than not, I came away watching games going, oh, that was the right approach, the right game plan. Right? They didn't give up in any game. They were always physical and tough. So those things I liked. And I think that's probably what caused the day delay in the firing, is that they were like, man, there's a lot of things we like. We can certainly question some mismanagement at the end of the game situations. There was a few of those. I get that. But I do think it was a little bit of an unfair shake. We'll see where it goes. Right? Again, it's another one where Tom Telesco, the GM, he's still there. And Brady's there and a part of this conversation. And if Brady, I would think, hey, Vrabel and Brian Flores are certainly going to be at the top of his list because he knows them and knows what they're about. And then just going from what you hear about Brady talking about in games, he's amazed by Ben Johnson. I feel like he's amazed by Todd Monken. And a few weeks ago, he was doing Tampa Bay with Liam Cohen, and I think he's very impressed with that offense too, just reading between the lines and the things he said there. So, we'll see where that goes. But that's another one where it's an uphill climb, right? It's an uphill climb. Vegas isn't for everybody either as far as their family and the teams that have options. Like, I question Mike Vrabel if he really would want to live and move his family to Vegas. I don't know that. Just totally like, hey, that's a thing every now and then. Coaches don't want to be in certain areas of the country or live in a certain city or whatever, and the ones that have options might be able to, take that into consideration more than the ones that don't have options.
All right, so the Titans bucked the trend.
Yeah.
They fired their GM, kept their first-year coach, and Brian Callahan. Rand Carthen is out, who the ownership group picked kind of over Vrabel's, displeasure maybe. He didn't want him. Now they got him. Now they don't have him anymore. It seems like a little bit of a mess in Tennessee right now.
It's a mess. Amy Adams Strunk, right? I mean, it just doesn't look good from the outside looking in. It doesn't. I mean, let's lay it out. Okay, we got John Robinson as a GM. Things started out okay. We got Vrabel. Okay, then John Robinson started to do some things, and the team kind of went south. We got rid of Vrabel not long after that when he was coaching teams that just weren't even very good, but they were like still in playoff contention or in the playoffs. One of the better coaches in football. That was weird in itself. And you let the new GM, by all due accounts, kind of run the show there. And it was like he got to say, no, it's me, and you get rid of Vrabel, and Vrabel's out of here. And then the guy you listened to just like 10 months ago, now you're going, no, you get out of here, and I'm going to find somebody else to listen to. I'm going to listen to the coach that we just hired, and he's only been here for 10 months, and he didn't have a very good year, so we're going to go with what he says here. It's all weird. That's all I'm saying. The quarterback situation's weird. Ownership's weird. It's not going to be the top of the list of teams that have options. There's no doubt about that, right? And I don't know where it goes. And I feel bad for Rand Carthon, and I don't know what went on down there. But when you get fired as a GM after 2 years with two different coaching staffs, that usually leads me to believe that both coaching staffs didn't say a lot of good things about you, and the owner's just like, whoa, okay, wait. First coaching staff didn't say good things about him, and we kept him. Second coaching staff came in, and they didn't like it either. So maybe it's the front office. That's what it has a feel of. I don't know, but either way, he's out of there.
Yeah, as the great George Bush said, fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice, You ain't gonna fool me again.
Hey, can't fool me again.
yeah. So that's what they've done. So now we'll see. They do have the number 1 pick. So the new GM will get the pick of the litter of this year's draft. One more to talk about, and you said this to me on Sunday. You said, speaking for yourself and for Pete and maybe many Giants fans out there, if they come back with Brian Daboll and Joe Schoen, you're not gonna be super pumped and excited. And
no,
that's exactly what the Giants have done.
I know. I had no feel for where this was going to go. I had some, people in the know tell me a few things here and there, but I can't lie that I was surprised that both were back. I wasn't sure. I do feel like that maybe the Maras and the Tisch family just went like, hey, we can't go like 2 years fire coach, 2 years fire coach, 2 years fire coach, 2 years fire coach, right? This would be 4 in a row as far as that mold. Am I right about that? I think so.
Oof.
Yeah.
3?
3? Yeah.
3 times?
Yeah, 3 times. So it's going to be a huge year for them, certainly. And I think the thing they can, look at to a degree and maybe have this on their side is that, like, the Daniel Jones thing was kind of thrusted on them, right? We went to the playoffs. He had his first real good year, and he wasn't our guy. Joe Schoen is going to look at it and go, wait, I've drafted some good guys here. Look at my team. Daboll's going to go, hey, we had some success, but the team's not super talented. Let me develop some of these young guys Joe Schoen has drafted here, and we're going to make something, and hopefully that can be the case. But obviously, offensive line issues for really maybe the 3rd year in a row, 4th year in a row with the Giants. We got to get the quarterback situation figured out. We got the defensive line figured out, but now we got to get the secondary figured out. There's a lot of work to be done there, and hopefully they can get it done. These are 2 guys that I like a lot.
Sure.
They're good football guys, right? But I do think there's, some areas that both of them can improve on, certainly.
Pete says in our rundown here, just the right formula for long-term success, a desperate GM focused on keeping his job short-term. I think he's being sarcastic there, but, that is a danger, right?
Yeah.
It's just like, and he said publicly, he's not going to, sell the farm.
Yeah, well, you
just
worry
for the
he's going to go
year,
desperate and give contracts out and do anything he can just to make them look good this year, to where you go, oh, wait, now we're in purgatory and we're screwed for other years.
Yeah.
I don't think that's going to happen. They understand, the Maras aren't going to let them just go crazy here. I don't envision that, and hopefully they can find some of the right players and change this team around. That's for sure.
All right, time now for the number 6 in the pick 6, and this is our Requiem for a team in the NFC. We got a couple of NFC ones here to get to. First, your homie predictions. We're going to talk about the Panthers, Seahawks, Bears, and Falcons being eliminated. Just 7 homies had the Panthers making the playoffs, and I assume they're all in North Carolina or the Charlotte area. 20% had the Seahawks making the playoffs. Pete had them winning the NFC West, which could have happened.
Yeah.
And it came down to the
close
end there.
The last few weeks.
38% of the homies out there had the Bears making the playoffs, including you, as we saw.
Me.
And they were actually favored to make the playoffs. If you remember that, they were one of the teams that was favored to get that 7
They
seed.
were a Hail Mary away from going 5-2, and then everything fell apart.
76% of the homies had the Falcons making the playoffs, including you and myself having them win the division. We were wrong on that, but it came down to the final week, so I'm not embarrassed about that.
Right.
So here we go. The world debut. This will be playing on your radio soon, worldwide. The eulogies to the Bears, Seahawks, Panthers, and Falcons.
When you're pick number 1, it's not always fun. And pick number 8 may still not be great. The weather is bad, your team's just as sad. It was too much abuse watching Matt eat Burfloos.
I mean, that is true. Not for me, though.
Fans need emotional support when their quarterback's short. It went off the rails with his painted nails. Just wanna get a dub, made harder with grub. It all ends with a splat. We did not like that.
When you're pick number 1,
Good.
it's not always fun.
You like that?
Number 8, may still not be great. The weather
Very good.
is bad, your team's just as sad. It was too much abuse watching Matt eat Burfloos.
Yeah, this one was more. This was like a Taylor. I was like, let's go a little different.
Yeah,
here.
yeah.
This was different than the other ones.
Little pop culture there.
Yeah, the AI didn't spell the team names quite right, and I actually had to add that Falcons logo because I think there were 2 Panther heads down there at the bottom.
Well,
so.
yeah, there is 2 Panther heads.
I think maybe there were 3.
They're
then.
still there.
Yeah.
There was another one there. Is
There
what
was
you're
one
telling
more
us?
there. Yeah, it was a mistake there. So So all right, so those teams are dead and buried.
So we can trust AI to do everything except for logos in the world.
Logos
They're ready to
are
run the world apparently, except for in the logo
They
department.
will take over everything, but our graphic designers will still have a job.
Right.
So one more to get to here, and we got 4 more teams. We got the 49ers, Cowboys, Cardinals, and Saints. Some power franchises here that are staying home. 4% had the Saints making the playoffs, which, man, that 4% was feeling pretty good after week number 2, right? They scored 40 points.
I was giving them pub, loving them, and my favorite offense to watch after 2 weeks. Remember all that?
How could this go wrong?
Right.
Immediately
Well,
goes wrong.
it did.
5% had the Cardinals making the playoffs, which at times this year, that 5% felt pretty good.
Right.
54% had the Cowboys making the playoffs, including myself. That was a mistake. I should have known better.
What an idiot you
there.
are.
And 98% of all of us out there had the 49ers making the playoffs. Just 11 homies predicted them to miss. 11 out of what? Wasn't it like 1,000, Pete? Or almost 1,000?
It was 1,000, I believe.
Wow. That's crazy.
Yeah.
98% to man. That didn't happen.
I'm excited for this one because this has some players and some people that I know that could be funny and creative here.
I even forgot how this one went. So we'll have to see here. The world debut of the eulogy to the 49ers, Cowboys, Cardinals, and Saints.
A group of 4 teams held in high esteem, but all were derailed, and each of them failed. A man who held out, a team that washed out, an old coach in whiz, and not enough riz. If you played for San Fran, chances you're a hurt man. The Cards' offense was booty, thanks to Call of Duty.
How dare you?
Only Saints wins are thanks to Alvin, and Jerry's big brain may now be insane. A group of 4 teams held in high esteem, but all were derailed, and each of them failed. A man who held out, a team that washed out, an old coaching whiz, and not enough riz.
Yeah. There it is.
There it is. Oh, they got those logos,
They
right?
did well with that one. Yeah.
They were like, we know the 49ers and the Cowboys, that's for sure.
Yeah. Cardinals a little weird, and they did add another Dallas Cowboys logo in the middle.
Yeah, you're
there.
right.
I don't know why.
Yeah, what is it? He's got a little
is that not
teeth.
right?
His eyes look a little slouchy, like he's been hanging out with me on a Friday night.
Yeah. Well, it's a tough year, a tough end of the year
He
for
needed
them.
something. He needed some medicinal.
I felt bad going back to the Call of Duty for Kyler, but it's just like the Cardinals. There
Oh,
wasn't
yeah, no,
much
such
to
a
say.
cheap shot, low blow by you. Unbelievable.
Yeah.
I can't believe you did that after the year he had.
I've already
Jeez.
been in the lab with the Bengals one, so we'll do the
Okay.
Bengals next time, which
Okay.
is a pretty good one for obvious reasons
sure.
here. But yeah, we'll get those all in a playlist and groove to them. I do catch my son sometimes. All of a sudden, I hear him like singing a song, and it's like, you're singing the Requiem for the 49ers, Cowboys, Saints, and Cardinals, aren't you?
Yeah, it's good old family fun, these songs. I like it a lot.
They are
certainly.
family fun, except for Jerry. I'm not saying he's insane, but it's just like, man, it's just tough at the end here. It's
Yeah.
like, what are you going to do?
A lot
It's
of
just-
crazy things said, done, whatever. I understand what you're saying. You're just mean from a football
From a
standpoint.
football perspective,
Exactly
yes.
right. We got you.
Yeah.
Don't worry. He's not going to sue you, I don't think.
Yeah, you never know.
We'll see.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. That's it. Way to go. Seriously.
Thank you.
I think this is better than ever this year.
They're pretty good.
They're
You know,
pretty
the
damn
poems
good.
are good.
You've
but they had
always
to
been
run.
good, but
Thank
these
you.
little like creative tunes that this comes up with are pretty awesome.
It's been fun to
Definitely,
put together.
definitely. My mom, Dirty Diana, is going to like these ones as well. But everybody, you know where to find us. Thursday, Picks Pod with me and Florio, Wild Card Edition. We got something going on. We got a tight race in our picks and all of that. Yeah. So it's going to come down to the end. You know where to find us there. Subscribe, rate, review at all the good places that show our pod. You listen to our pod, whatever else. Ahmed, you are the man. Thanks again for driving the ship as always.
Of course.
Everybody, check me and Florio out tomorrow. Enjoy a Wild Card weekend. It should be a doozy. I'm going to Texas, Ohio State Friday.
That's right.
I'll be there. I'll be back on my couch by Saturday afternoon watching Wild Card football. I'm ready for the weekend. Hook 'em horns. Peace out. Clap it up.
Wrap it up.
Yo, homies. Thanks for watching. Yeah, it's time. The NFL season is here on Chris Sims Unbuttoned.
You can hit subscribe to get all the weekly picks, plus our Sunday recaps as the games are happening.
Oh, you know it. Nobody does that better than us. Thanks again for watching. Remember to subscribe. Peace out. We'll see you next time on Unbuttoned.